Have you ever imagined nuns as scandalous and filthy figures? Well, worry not, because even the purest of them all has a secret. Let's dive into history surprises as we reveal the intriguing cases of nuns in medieval history. Beyond the virtuous facade, between 1517 and 1518, these nuns shattered norms, engaging in behaviors that challenge conventional perception. So let's get into this right now. When we imagine nuns, we usually see them in peaceful places like monasteries, showing qualities like being pure, innocent, and staying faithful. But a long time ago, during medieval times, there were times when nuns got caught up in problems and were said to do things that didn't match their usual image. One such case involves the Benedictine Priory of Lillemore, which faced a series of scandals in the early 16th century between 1517 and 1518. These scandals shed light on a different side of nuns' lives during that era. The Lillemore Benedictine Priory has a history that started when Robert D. Sanford created it. It became famous for some bad things that happened between 1517 and 1518. These incidents involved allegations of immoral behavior and even violence among the Benedictine nuns and their associates at the St. Nicholas Priory in Lillemore. All of this happened when King Stephen was ruling in the 12th century. Robert de Sanford helped start the Lillemore Priory, and later, King Henry III gave it the things it needed to keep running. Over time, the priory got land and special rights, like being allowed to collect wood from the forest. But in the summer of 1517, the priory had money problems and lost the king's support. When visitors like Dr. Edmund Horde and Bishop William Atwater's commissioner came, they saw some troubling things at the monastery. They found out that when Dr. John Darby visited before, the nuns didn't want to sleep inside because they were worried about the building's safety. They spent time outside instead. Some historians think that this might be where things started to go wrong because they enjoyed being outside and didn't want to stop the pleasure they received and the filthy things they could do. Unlike what people usually think about nuns following strict rules, the nuns in this priory did things differently. They did things that were usually considered private and intimate, making some people think the place felt more like a brothel than a normal monastery. These nuns enjoyed things that are related to the outside world, which wasn't very usual for a place like that. One such person, Catherine Wells, the prioress, stood out for her controversial behavior. She had an illegitimate daughter and maintained a relationship with the child's father. She displayed extravagant and immoral conduct funded by resources meant for the priory. The nuns faced financial hardships, lacking proper sustenance and clothing. Despite her own immoral actions, Wells harshly punished nuns who broke the rules and disagreed with her. Edmund Horde's report showed how bad things had become. People said the nuns were having children without being married and doing things that weren't right with others. Wells, the leader, was accused of not just doing things that weren't good, but also using her power in the wrong way. She punished the nuns for things, while she herself was doing things that were wrong. Things got even worse, and the priory's name got worse too. Wells didn't set a good example because she made the rules she didn't follow. Because of that, fewer people wanted to join, and the priory didn't have enough money. Bishop Atwater eventually summoned Wells to court, where she faced charges of immoral behavior and theft that disrupted the priory's functioning. She was dismissed from her position, but allowed to continue her duties until a suitable replacement was found. Wells admitted to her misconduct during this period. The priory's fate remained a mystery until 2012, when their remains were discovered buried in an unconventional manner. The severity of their sins led to the priory's closure in the mid-16th century. By 1524, the priory was dissolved, with only one building surviving. The building, the Priory Tavern, is the sole remnant of the medieval structure still standing. In the end, the events at Lillemore were not entirely unique, and they weren't representative of all convents during that time. Many nunneries upheld their responsibilities with respect and devotion. The Lillemore Priory's closure aligned with the declining prominence of such establishments in England. Ultimately, the Lillemore Priory scandals played a role in the larger context of England's religious transformation. Figures like Thomas Cromwell used these events to support King Henry VIII's efforts to create a new religious order and reform the monastic system. The closure of the priory likely marked the end of an era rather than a source of regret. But that isn't it. The nuns in Italy and Great Britain had different reputations. While theft and selling church items weren't common among Italian nuns, they were known for interesting activities within their convents. Some Italian monasteries even turned into secret brothels behind their strong walls. In Venice, for instance, nuns wore revealing dresses during church services, attracting people who were interested in them. The abbesses were busy arranging these encounters. Alexander Pertussis wrote about this in a book about Balthasar da Costa's life during Pope John XXII's time. The nuns' rules about clothes and behaviors in convents weren't super strict. They liked to show off their natural beauty and grace. In Italy, it was okay for guys to visit nuns, but things were different in Spain. The nuns there acted differently depending on what visitors thought of them. People even gave names to the convents based on what they offered, like calling one the Abbey of Dolls. While attempts were made in Spain to punish nuns for engaging in debauchery, the number of individuals involved in such behavior increased dramatically over time. Similar to Great Britain, there are records of monasteries being closed due to the excessive misconduct of the nuns. For instance, the convent of St. John the Baptist in the city of Bologna had to be closed after authorities expelled all the nuns. The nuns from the monastery of St. Leonard were placed under the supervision of the monastery. In Germany, which was known for its disciplined and orderly nature, authorities made serious efforts to curb immorality in some monasteries. Unlike in other countries, German authorities dealt harshly with nuns involved in such activities. In the Nadendal Abbey, which turned into a brothel, clients visited day and night for intimate encounters with the nuns. Julius of Brunswick-Lüneburg, a patron supporting the monastery financially, decided to put an end to this misconduct and ordered the Mother Superior to be walled up alive. German church authorities conducted surprise and planned inspections of monasteries, often revealing startling results. For example, at the Benedict Boyern Abbey, a majority of the nuns were found to be pregnant. Another intriguing case is the so-called brothel for the nobility, officially known as the Obendorf Monastery in Tallinn. Here, noble and wealthy citizens exclusively visited, and the inhabitants included around 20 nuns of aristocratic descent. An activity in this abbey involved extinguishing the lights during feasts, allowing visitors and keepers to engage in sexual encounters in the darkness. To discourage such behavior, the authorities took a different approach, prohibiting nuns from entering the city and imposing fines on anyone attempting to enter the monastery with sinful intentions. French traditions were characterized not only by the free-spirited nature of the nuns, but also by bacchanalian revelries reminiscent of Roman celebrations. Intoxicated by wine, men and women engaged in lustful embraces, creating a spectacle. It was mentioned that the monasteries of Paris strictly forbade nuns from participating in orgies. Eleanor of Aquitaine, queen consort of both France and England, retired to Fontevraud Abbey in her later years. Fontevraud was unique in that it housed both men and women, with the abbess often having authority over both. While the abbey was known for its piety, its structure also led to some unconventional interaction between the sexes, potentially sparking speculation about forbidden behaviors. France during the medieval period had a complex relationship with religion, social norms, and art. Artistic depictions, literature, and cultural practices might have contained subtle or explicit references to themes that could be interpreted as forbidden pleasures involving nuns. To sum it up, the surprising things that happen at the Benedictine Priory of Littlemore give us a look into how nuns lived in the olden days. Around 1517 to 1518, things happened there that were not what people usually thought about nuns. These nuns did things that went against the usual rules, like being close with people and not always getting along with the bosses. It's interesting because it shows that nuns were not always pure and proper as we might have assumed. However, it's crucial to emphasize that such instances should not be generalized to the entirety of nuns in medieval Europe. The examples mentioned above should be understood within the broader historical and cultural context of the time. Nuns in medieval Europe, like elsewhere, were diverse in their experiences, motivations, and adherence to their vows. That's it for today's video. Thanks a lot for watching, and don't forget to share your views on these notorious nuns in the comments down below. Until next time, take care, and bye for now.